Hello everybody and welcome to Nathan on Shuffle and to my latest episode of Top 5. This is the show where I give you guys a top 5 list. It's a topic in progressive rock that usually my wife comes up with, and I just come up with a top 5 list off the top of my head and invite you guys in the comment section to give your top 5 lists or any picks that you guys thought of for the topic at hand. Much appreciated to get any kind of feedback. As always, I'd urge you guys to subscribe if you haven't yet. That would be really helpful to the channel. I do this pretty much on a weekly basis, and it's a lot of fun. If you have any recommended topics as well, we always look into the comments and see what people are saying, so that would be much appreciated, and a like and a comment is always really well appreciated. So thank you guys for your support and for all you do for the channel, and let's jump into our topic at hand. This is probably going to be a bit of a shorter episode. This is a topic that I've had a little bit swimming in the background a little bit that my wife came up with a while back. I did a top 5 of my top 5 Prog Supergroups, and this is a bit of an extension of that as my top 5 songs by Prog Supergroups. So dialing into a little bit of the tracks that these bands have come up with and a little bit of a ranking of my favorites. So getting into my top 5 list, at number 5, I have The Sea Within and their track Broken Chord from their 2018 self-titled record. I don't know if it's a stretch or not to call this a Prog supergroup, but it featured a lot of really notable modern prog musicians. It has Royna Stolt in the mix, Daniel Gildenlow from Pain of Salvation, Tom Brislin, who's now part of the Kansas lineup. Even Casey McPherson guests on this for a couple tracks from Flying Colors. I believe Marco Miniman is on drums, so a real big roster of some great notable prog people. This was really a one-off record. I don't think there's any plans to follow it up. I've talked a bit about the band before, I believe, in a different topic, but Broken Chord to me is a highlight of the album. It's the big epic piece, and it gives a chance for Daniel Gildenlow and Casey McPherson to both have featured vocal sections. There's some really cool bouncy pop-inspired prog moments. There's some more prog, symphonic prog epic moments, and it just goes through a lot of different styles and movements, and it's just a really great epic piece from the album that I've always really enjoyed. But the whole album is really fantastic and one well worth checking out if you're unfamiliar with the group. I think it's a little hidden gem that a lot of people may have missed if you weren't heavily into the prog scene in 2018. For number 4, I have Liquid Tension Experiment and their track When the Water Breaks from 1999's Liquid Tension Experiment 2, their second record. This is a Prog supergroup featuring a lot of former and present members of Dream Theater. We've got Mike Portnoy on drums, Jordan Rudess on keyboards, we've got John Petrucci on guitar, and of course Tony Levin on bass. So a really cool instrumental prog metal outfit. Jordan Rudess, I believe at this time wasn't part of Dream Theater yet, but would be shortly when it was formed, so he was kind of a new member of this group. And When the Water Breaks to me is one of their signature pieces. It's their big, long, epic, and usually I'm not a huge fan of instrumental progressive rock, but I love the way Liquid Tension Experiment does it because they're able to really have a lot of hooks, a lot of moments to really grab hold of. It's not just a riff fest and them just shredding all the time without anything to grab hold of. I think they're really good about having strong melodies, strong sections that really grab you and hook you in, and so for me, it really connects with me on a great level, and I think this track has so many cool things in the mix. I think it was smart to bring Jordan Rudess into the Dream Theater fold based on his contributions on these records, because he infuses such a fun sense into these records, just really exciting moments, these like cool different style keyboard parts. You know, he introduces a lot of proggier elements, some almost ragtime feel, and you know, all of that stuff is baked in, and they're able to just really rock out on this piece, have some metal harder moments, but also some more laid back, just really beautiful melodic moments, great soloing. It just really runs the gamut between all that they're able to do as a group and gives each member a chance to shine and get focused. So it's one of my favorite pieces and an incredible track to mention here. Number 3, I have U.K. and the track In the Dead of Night. Really, it's the suite of the first 3 tracks from their debut self-titled record from 1978. The tracks are In the Dead of Night, By the Light of Day, and Presto Vivace and Reprise. This group is made up of John Wetton on vocals and bass, Alan Holdsworth on acoustic and electric guitars, Eddie Jobson on electric violin, Bill Bruford on drums. So we've got a really powerhouse group of prog musicians coming together for this record and the next one, Danger Money. Really fantastic pieces by them, but I think In the Dead of Night is, to me, their signature piece that just is able to showcase all of their great playing. It has almost it's interesting because this was moving into the later 70s, into the 80s when the prog heyday was sort of ending. So they have a little bit of more modern, at the time at least, 80s sort of approach to this, I think. But they're able to really introduce a lot of great prog playing, some great, incredible Crimson-esque sections, some great violin soloing and synth solos. Really cool pieces that showcase a band at the top of their game. Bruford, of course, is just incredible drumming on this. He's one of the premier prog drummers, and it's really cool to hear him play. And it's just a really cool piece that has different sections and evolves and comes back to the beginning and is a really solid piece of prog history. So, really strong piece. And another solid piece of prog history is number 2's Emerson, Lake and Palmer's Tarkus from their 1971 album of the same name. Tarkus is a legendary piece of music from Emerson, Lake and Palmer. I'm always hesitant to call them a prog supergroup because to me prog supergroups are bands, basically it's different members who are better known from other bands coming together to do a project or a couple different albums, but I feel like Emerson, Lake and Palmer became their own sort of thing. They became more known for Emerson, Lake and Palmer than they almost were from the bands that they came from. So it morphed into more just of a standard prog band than a supergroup. But I think the term still applies for them because they came from various different backgrounds and were able to bring the elements that made them special in their own individual groups into this amalgamation. And I think Tarkus is a great example of that because they're just able to play fantastically. You've got Emerson's piano providing color, Carl Palmer's great drumming over this whole piece, and Lake's great bass lines. You get some great vocal moments, in these quieter moments, but you get some furious keyboard playing from Keith Emerson, as he's known to do. Runs the gamut. It's like a prog exploration of a battle scene and all of these crazy chaotic elements, but it all works together in this fascinating environment with so many great hooks and moments that you will always remember if you listen to this piece. So one of the signature prog epics that I think really solidified the prog epic as an art form for the genre at large. This would lead to a lot of other notable, great classic epics in the prog space, and I think they were one of the early examples of it and doing it so well and doing it in this fashion. So definitely a signature piece from prog history. But my number 1 is a little bit more recent than that, and this is, a no-brainer pick for me as a big fan of this group, and if you watch my channel, you kind of probably knew this is where I was headed. It's Transatlantic's Stranger in Your Soul from their second album in 2001, Bridge Across Forever. And this is bringing together some of the big stalwarts of the newer prog scene, especially that 90s, early 2000s prog scene where you got Mike Portnoy coming over from Dream Theater, you've got Pete Trewavas coming from Marillion, you've got Norina Stolt coming from the Flower Kings, and Neil Morse coming from Spocksbeard, forming this collective of great prog musicians playing in that classic 70s prog style, but bringing their own unique flavor to it and bringing it with a little bit of a modern edge. I think Stranger in Your Soul is their signature piece. It's epic. It closes out this perfect album in such grand fashion. It gives every member a chance to shine. There's some heavier, more metallic moments showing that Dream Theater influence, but you can hear Neil Morse's signature writing all over this piece. I think this is one of the best epics he was ever involved in, that he ever wrote. And it just has that classic Neil Morse arc where you introduce the main theme at the beginning, go through all these great crazy sections, have these like ballad-esque moments that are really heartfelt and emotional, and then bring it all back home by reprising the opening themes and doing it to grand epic effect. And it's just a great piece of music, great piece of writing, showcases all that I love about progressive rock in one near 30-minute epic, and it's just perfect for me. So those are my top 5 songs from Prog Supergroups. Let me know in the comments other songs that you enjoy by Prog Supergroups or other supergroups that were included or mentioned in this piece. There's so many cool ones out there, and I'm sure there's other songs that you probably prefer from these bands than the ones I've chosen, but I think these pieces really showcase some of the most epic nature of these bands and what they can do as a collective in a different way than just the bands themselves separately. I think that's what makes a prog supergroup so special, is they're bringing in pieces from different prog realms and putting it all together and seeing how that combines and how that fits together. And as a big fan of all these different bands and these different musicians, it's just fascinating to see what they come up with, how it differs from the main bands they're a part of, and some of the elements that they bring in that sound similar. So thank you guys for joining me in this episode. Hopefully you enjoyed the topic, and I'll be back next week with a new topic. Let me know in the comments how you feel and future episode topics that you may be coming up with. So thank you guys, and I'll catch you guys in another episode. Bye, everybody.